Getting a little bit of a late start. Let me make sure I have everything off because a lot of things have been dragging. But we're gonna be doing these live streams every night, 9:30. We're just sharing knowledge here. A lot of these channels haven't been sharing information as far, or they don't know the information. So we're starting to do these at 9:30 every night, but it's mostly for this group that's going camping with us. Like I tell everybody, it's not a Bigfoot expedition, but people are welcome to join us for the camp. It's a ceremony for the water. But the area that we're going into is or has Bigfoots in those areas. Now I don't know the exact spot of where we're going to be at. I do have the location, and hopefully there's a young man who has been there and he knows exactly where we need to go. So hopefully we'll get with him, or maybe he can message us. So there are the possibilities that we will have a sighting or an encounter, but it's not what we're going for. But more than likely we're going to have an encounter. And there are places where I know some are, but we also have to camp around that area, but we'll do it in a safe manner. And we'll also have like the thermals and the GPS and things like that going. We also have night vision with it's a camera that also will record. So if people are welcome to bring their own equipment, bring your own cameras, your own trail cam, things that you would use. In which I was talking to a man today about the camp, but he can't make this one, but he wants to try to get together with an experienced group and go out. He's got all the signs, he's got the cast, he's got everything, he just hasn't seen one. So he offered to go with us, not this time because it's he already had plans, which a lot of people do, but this was actually for a certain group of people, which would love to have more experienced people or people who want to know, but you have to learn through these segments that we're doing, or be at camp early on Friday so we can go over a lot of this also. And at that camp we're going to be telling ancient stories that I don't know if I'm going to get to before camp, but I'm building everybody up by bits and pieces so that when you hear the story, it's going to make sense. Right now, it wouldn't make sense because it's some ancient knowledge that a lot of people haven't heard or got accustomed to, or has had the privilege, which a lot of people haven't, but we just had to learn the hieroglyphs ourselves. And once we did that, now we can share the stories and everything with everybody because we know now. And that's what we're going to do on that first night. We're going to sit around, we're going to talk about everything, but at night we're going to be extremely quiet. The town that we're in, just like the town that we're in now, in most small towns, and even the bigger towns, you do have Bigfoots in your towns, in your cities, or around them, that they come in, that they'll eat, or we do have missing people from those cities as well. I want to tell you quickly about a few things that are coming up that we're going to either be with, or it's another place where we can share more knowledge. August the 26th, I talked about this last time, but August 26th, and her name on Facebook is Rachel Chaatas, which means Choctaw in our language, and that's not her real name, but that her real last name. But you will find it on Facebook, and that's Rachel Chahata, Chahata, and that means Choctaw in our language. And I'm going to be doing a podcast for Chalk Talk, CHOCTALK, and I think you can find it under Native Chalk Talk on Google, and that is through SoundCloud. And that's August 26th at 4:30 p.m. I'm going to be doing a interview with Chalk Talk, which is a Choctaw-owned podcast, and it's mostly for information over our history. And the Bigfoot is a part of our history, and there's only a certain amount of us that really know everything about it. And so we're going to be sharing on that podcast as well to the Choctaw people, because it does predominantly reach the Choctaw people or my people. Also, in September, there's a museum. Her name is Tanya Colbeck. I want to say Colbeck. She's opened up a Bigfoot museum in Tallahena, Oklahoma. That's in September. I don't have the official date time, but we're also going to be in that area September 3rd and 4th and 5th for the camp that we're having. And on that first night, we're going to be staying in a place where there is activity that is happening now, but we'll do it in a safe manner, and everyone will be aware of where we're at, and we will do some tracking during the day. I just want to show everybody the tracks and how to track quickly, and also if the people want to, we'll track it back to the dens, because we do pretty much know where those are also, or at least where they hide and hunt from. Let's see, and that we will be doing a daily broadcast on this Bigfoot knowledge. And the next thing is Stephen Brody Ford with Hiking Deep. That's all capital letters, Hike as a hike, apostrophe N space deep, all capital letters. That's on YouTube. And he's the young man that we was talking to today about doing some extra hiking, extra camps. So a lot of people can't make this camp like Stephen can't on this one, but it is possible that we will have different camps. People are more interested on like the adventurous kind of type to get their own knowledge and their own proof. It's going to be something to other people when they do have their own proof, and when they're with us and they get their own proof, that's going to be something too, especially with the people. Of course, you're always going to get hecklers. You're always going to get people who don't understand that there's some of us who, we have a different kind of knowledge, and we do have a different kind of outlook on things. Not to mention that, you'll be with experienced, knowledgeable people, because everyone will have some experience or an encounter. Plus, we'll have all the knowledges of the stars. We'll teach you how to read hieroglyphs. So this camp is not like a camp. And whenever I have given camps before, I should specify more clearly that when I camp, I don't have a fire. You're not going to be reading a book. There won't be a radio. There won't be talking. Most of your camp is going to be to observe. That's, we're not going out there to be observed, even though we will be, but we want to be the observers. We don't want to be the ones who are fully being the ones observed. We want to have people looking in each direction. And as the young man talked about today, he's never been with a group, which he said that he goes out most of the time by himself, and he's been surrounded before, which I've been surrounded before a couple of times. But that's what they do. They're predators. So when you go out with a group, to me, that's going out like with a military unit. And that's why we go over everything together that day before we go out. And that whole day, we just spend on knowing exactly what we're going to do. We go over our hand signals if this is your first time. And one of these segments, we're going to go just over hand signals and certain gestures so that we don't have to talk when we're out there. And that we'll have people practice this. And for right now, if you do get a chance and if you are coming to camp, practice the military hand signals, because they seem to work the best for new people, I guess you would say, to like a camp like this. We're not going to be cooking meats on an open fire. We're going to have only dry goods. If we eat, it's going to be away from where we have our stationary camp, and we'll clean up really well, not with flowery soaps and things like that. And you want to use like a no scent or no shampoo and things like that, or no scent, shampoos. You don't want to be going out there smelling like a rose garden, and you don't want to go smelling like cigarettes, because that can be smelled from miles away. We're not trying to make a disturbance there. So that's also for the camp. And also on Facebook, it's Oklahoma Bigfoot Predator Watch. In parentheses, antlers, like deer antlers, like the deer antlers in surrounding areas. And that's my Facebook group page for the Oklahoma Bigfoot areas. I'm on Facebook jail, so I won't be there for about 26 days, but we do give updates there, and that page is directly for first-hand encounters. If you're a first-hand encounter, you can share your story there of what happened to you, and if I can't get really to that, or maybe you can watch these podcasts all the way back. We've been doing these for about 5 or 6 nights, giving information and everything. And if you have a question, maybe it's already been answered in the segments before, or we're going to answer a couple today also. Also, another group page I have is called Choctaw Missing and Murdered Woman, and that's WOMB, Womb Man. Choctaw Missing and Murdered Woman and Son Center and Database. And that's where we give input, updates on different kind of topics that still relates to the missing and murdered. I do share information and knowledge on that page, but we also post if there are any alerts of the Choctaw people. We want to know first so we can get there first. If we're not already called, or if we're not involved yet, that we want to be one of the first people there to help track for if any of our missing Choctaw or people become missing. We want to know about it, last locations, and how soon we can get there, because different abductions happen, and we track in the mountain and the wooded terrains. We know what we're looking for if anyone's taken that way. If Bigfoots do take people, that we do know how to track those also. And like we was talking about with a couple of people. You know, Bigfoot don't just, you know, go in a straight line. They think like a predator. They climb in trees, you know, like the great apes and everything, monkeys, chimpanzees. They can travel that way, and people are not really heavy to them, so they can travel by the trees to help you lose your track. They do have like whenever I have my trackers, I get them a ball of yarn that goes at least 100 to 1,000 feet. And when we lose a track, and we have tracked before, so we know what we're looking for. So when the tracker loses a track, you know, we put our hand up to stop. We point at the last track. The other trackers come up. The ones in the back come up, but the one in the back holds still. We let that first one mark his spot and go out 40 yards. We're looking for at least 40 yards for the next track, because these Bigfoots are powerful. And if you've seen them jump, you know that 20 feet to 40 foot is not a big task for them. So our trackers will go out 40 yards with that that spool. They don't find any in that 40 yards, they'll mark it, they'll come back, they'll go back this direction, and then they'll go back this direction. But we'll find that other track, maybe it's a scuff, anything. But that's what we look for. We look for any disturbance, any discoloration, any push downs, and of course the tracks. We talked today, a young Stephen, actually we talked today, that he had seen, you know, some rock formations, but there were no print around them. So we got into talking about weight distribution and how the Bigfoot will go on all fours to do things like that, to not leave a track right there. So always be aware of that, because you will lose tracks. They know how to jump to a spot that you're not going to look for, or most people don't know. That's especially with the search and rescue people. You know, if they don't know that you got to go at least 40 yards out just to track for another light, weight distributed, discoloration, disturbance track, then there's no way they're going to stay on the track, and they're going to lose people fast. Which of course they have. Most search and rescue teams aren't tracked as trainers. Trained as trackers. Which I do offer that camp. I do train trackers for 1 month. That is a $500 course, and that the next one is from September 1st to October 1st. But if you are lucky enough to get into that camp and want to learn how to track, because we don't just teach tracking, we teach how to listen to the birds, because birds do have a language. We teach you the predator sequences. We teach you camouflage and stealth, because when you're doing your tracking, and of course we teach your tracking and physical fitness, but when you're tracking, you have to always know that you're going to be observed, whether it's animals, bears, hogs, cougars, Bigfoots, and things like that. You have to know that you are going to be observed while you're tracking. So in that course, we teach you how to protect your mind, which I did also teach or gift, and I want to say about 3 days ago, in the segment of how to protect your mind against mind speak. And if you haven't listened to that podcast, not podcast, if you hadn't listened to that stream, please go back about 2 or 3 days and learn how to protect your mind while you're out there. There's a lot of things that you have to know while you're out there, and a lot of people haven't been told or taught or trained, and a lot of y'all are getting to converse with a predator, or it's able to get into your mind, and that is something you don't want to do. You do not want to have a connection with a predator, especially out there, because once they're connected to you, they can always find you, and because you have that connection. Okay. Okay, the Bigfoot also. The Bigfoot has the attributes of its mother. Now, when I talk about this, you have to realize that I'm talking about ancient times that go back before the dinosaur, before the first dinosaur, before the first predator. And when I think of giants, I think of like the size of planets. But we do have giants here, and a lot of them are Bigfoot related. So the attributes of a spider. Now, a Bigfoot can hang upside down. He doesn't have the medulla in the hair, just like the exoskeleton of a spider. Empty. Oh, okay. Jonesy, if this is cutting up and breaking out, I will reload this show or this stream after I get done here. So if this is cutting up, I'm gonna post a rebroadcast of this one, which will be faster, and it'll be better to listen to the next time. But since we've been sharing this and people have started to pay more attention here, this system has been glitchy, and it always happens when you're talking about the truth. Okay, so the arms also, if you look at a Bigfoot's arms, you'll have the regular size here, but like a spider's appendage, the next one will be longer, and that's the same way with the Bigfoot. Also, the neck is jointed together like the anthropod. And that's the same way or same reason a Bigfoot has no neck. A juvenile Bigfoot will have almost an equally proportioned body as a human, but as they grow, the upper body grows more. And that's because the Bigfoot has to have an unproportioned body for the back legs, so that when it drops to all four. Okay, Paula, I will be rebroadcasting this. I sure hate that this is breaking up like this, but I will post it again, and look for that reposting. Okay, now I'm gonna get my book, actually. Now this is the first book I wrote, and this one is called The Legend of Love of Prophecy. Now the word legend to the Indian people means Indian sciences, and the word prophecy means the use of those Indian sciences. So when the first book is called The Legend of Love of Prophecy, I'm saying the sciences. All right, Brian, I'll repost, but I just need to get through this. But the word legend means Indian sciences, and the word prophecy means the use of those sciences. Let's see if I can get this off screen. But anyway, I'll get that to you. Now this is also a part of my book, and this is the first book that I wrote. It's called The Legend of Love of Prophecy. This is only a little segment of it. It's much bigger. It's got the true history of Earth, which not many people know. It's got some it's got a lot of information that people need to know. If you really want to know the truth, you know, I do have those books, and I'm only charging $40 for them. And I'd rather send it like a PDF because it costs me too much. You know, I actually lose money whenever I send it like this or in a binder. But I do want to read a few parts of the formation of a Bigfoot in our stories. Now, and you'll find all this information in my first book. Now, here's one out. This part right here is talking about the Great Flood, the waters, and where the waters come from. But there are parts in here that also talk about the first Bigfoot that arrived here on the northern, on our territory, on our shores, I guess you'd say. Now here is one. And this is the Inuit, because when everything froze and those land bridges came over, those were true land bridges, but the reason the water froze is because we weren't used to a temperature like that at the reason of the cause of the flood, and I'll get to that also in much later cast, but I do want to read at least this one. The Inuit say that only the original beings existed before the flood. After the waters had receded, the first human appeared. This human looked similar to an original being, but had different skin, eyes, tongue, and appearance of not yet completed in form, and is a cannibal. A noted fact the original being stated in the ancient texts. Now there is another one in here that also talked about it. But in my book, it also talks about how the first creature that was human-like in form, but it wasn't a human. It was like a mixture, but it wasn't formed like us yet. But the more of our people that these creatures were eating, the more of the formation from our DNA it used to become more man-like. And that's in our old stories, and you'll find that also and much more in my first book. But so we know when the first Bigfoots arrived here, and they are predators and they were cannibals, and they still are, and they had a bite like fire. So a Bigfoot will have a poisoning or a numbing agent in its bite. Now, when people were talking about calls and whistles, and we were talking about this at the broadcast before, is that you don't make calls while you're out in the forest. You don't make wood knocks. You don't make whistles. Because to a Bigfoot, when they're making a call, it may sound like different tones, but it's got one pitch all the way through their calls. And you have to listen to these things, because you see people trying to make whooping calls, and they can get close, but A Bigfoot knows this is not one of our people because or one of our other predators that are out there because they have made, an up and down vibrational call. So when you're doing that, you're just calling them to yourself. If that's what you want to do, that's fine and dandy. But if you've got people around you that they don't know what you're doing, don't be calling unless you're by yourself, because you're going to get other people in jeopardy or jeopardize their lives, because these creatures eat meat. And if you're calling them in, wood knocking, trying to communicate with them, they're going to communicate. But it's not a communication of trying to become your brother. It's trying to become closer to you so it can capture you. It wants to be able to walk right up to you and just grab you and take you. And a lot of people do let that happen. They think it's not going to hurt them. But these creatures see you as food. You are food. Now, same thing. And we're going to close here in just a second. But this, like I was talking about with those wood knocks and everything, a lot of people are just out there playing. They don't understand that you're calling, like another person said, you're ringing the dinner bell. Especially if you're out there in the mountains in the woodline by yourself or with just a couple of people. If you're Bigfoot expedition, that kind of thing. When you're wood knocking, making those calls with an actual sound of a Bigfoot, then you're ringing the dinner bell to you. That's all you're doing. And you will get a response. And everybody does get a response. But also in one of the segments, I want to say yesterday or the day before, we did talk about calls and sounds to listen for. I forgot to also say that they will mimic a whooping whippoorwill or something, whippoorwill bird in the mornings. It'll also use that as an alarm, or it will tell another Bigfoot someone's coming. If you hear that very loudly, or any creature sound that's a little louder, then someone else is coming in that area, and they've already got eyes on them too. So when you go out to these territories, know you're being observed, and know how to observe. That's your best bet out there. Everyone can still have an enjoyable time, and I do recommend still being out there. Know your territories, survey where you're going to be staying, be safe out there. I'm going to go ahead and close for tonight, but we are going to do this at 9:30 tomorrow night also. We're going to have some more information, some more knowledge. I'm going to rebroadcast, because for some reason the last couple of nights PRISM has been glitchy and choppy. So we're going to take care of that. Also, like I was saying, I was sharing part of my book. The first book, I've written 5. The first one's The Legend of Love of Prophecy. The second one, The Warrior Views the Spiritual. The third one is called Cosmology, and I explain everything about cosmology. The fourth one is called The Completion of Time, and that's the Aztec Sunstone that I deciphered. But it also has the Fibonacci sequence in there that I also deciphered. And the fifth book is called Bishnik, and that's our messenger bird, which is to bring us messages or to remind us. And that book is called Bishnik, the Messenger. In parentheses, it's called The Forgotten Message. But also check out those Facebook pages. Join them. Like I said, I'm in Facebook jail for about 26 more days. But when I get done, we'll be back to that also. But if we are able to live stream at our camp, we are going to do that also. But I won't be talking this loud. We may go away from camp to talk about certain things and then come back to camp, because at camp we're quiet. And I don't want any disturbances, anyone caught unaware. You have to realize that all these camps do have the possibilities of being encountered or have your own experience. That's why we do recommend you bring in thermals or night vision cameras, so that you will go home with your own knowledge and proof, I guess you would say. But it is something, like I was saying, to have someone who has no proof, who is a skeptic, and especially people who kind of say bad things about me, giving information and knowledge and sharing all this information, to have them have their own encounter and me be standing right there with them. That's they're real. Everybody know that. They're out there. I'm just teaching you how to be safe out there, what to look for, how you can protect yourself, to always be in a good place but always make it home. So it's very important information. I'm going to close here, but I'm going to reboot this in just a second, because everyone has told me that this is glitchy, but that second one is always really good. Thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow, 9:30 p.m. Central Time. We got a lot more to go over. Every topic or every segment that we do has valuable knowledge and valuable information. So I am going to reboot this because the second broadcast is always the best one. I want to thank you again, and I'll see you tomorrow night, 9:30 p.m.